everybody. Welcome. We're super excited that you guys are here. We're going to give everybody a couple of minute or two to kind of start to funnel on in, and then we will get started. So for those of you just joining, I am Shay. I am a residential realtor in Chicago, and I have been a Realvolve user for I don't even know how many years now. I was trying to think of that earlier today. I was like 7, 8, something like that.
Basically OG, right?
Yeah, I know.
You've
Because
been using it for forever.
how long has Realvolve been around for? Do you know?
Been around for 11 or 12 years, I think at this
Okay.
point. It
So,
as far as in its current state,
yep,
probably, between the 5 and 8 year mark, but it went through several iterations at the very beginning stages. And
yep.
so,
I know.
yeah.
I'm so jealous now. All these people get all these workflows and stuff when they sign up for Realvolve. I didn't get any of that in the beginning.
I
I
know.
made all mine from scratch. So you guys have it easy. I feel like it's like the parents who are like, I had to walk uphill both ways.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's how I feel.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I had to build all my workflows from scratch. And
Really, I did. That's why I have all these workflows. So you guys have it easy now. You can buy workflows. They give you workflows. It's so much better. So all right, we have a lot to go over. We'll give everybody just
we
a couple
do.
more seconds to get in, but I do want to get started because I want to honor your time for coming today and finish on time. I'm assuming, Sam, is this going to be recorded?
Yeah, it'll be recorded. We'll try to get everyone the slides. And we had a bunch of questions. All of you submitted some really great questions. And Shay just kind of told me we're going to be covering a lot of those during the meeting today. So um, we still have those. We'll get to as many that we don't cover at the end.
Yep.
And if you have any more during the presentation, put that in the Q&A. And I'm curious to hear, what everyone is seeing. If you can put this in the chat. What are you seeing with listings in your market? Are you seeing low inventory? Are you seeing fewer listings? Are you seeing more listings? Really curious just to kind of hear on that. And, what are the challenges? What are the challenges with either listing presentations or getting these houses moved quickly? So put that in the chat if you can. Definitely want to hear from everybody and get as much interaction today as possible. So we like to keep these fun and low key and very interactive. So
Yep. And if you could put in there too, I'd love to hear if your stuff is selling, like if listings in your area are selling quickly or if they're not. Kind of in general, what I've been hearing from across the country is everyone seems like they're facing low inventory. I think with interest rates being so high, a lot of sellers don't want to sell because they don't want to trade in their 3% interest rate and have to go buy something in a 6.5% interest rate, et cetera. And obviously prices have gone up, we're just finding a massive inventory shortage in Chicago, because of that stuff is still selling pretty quickly, kind of in all price points in my area, even the luxury, up to 2.5 million. I just had a multiple offer situation on a 2.6 million the other day. So we're kind of seeing across the board stuff going fast, but I don't think that's the standard in a lot of markets. I know in a lot of markets I'm hearing, that kind of that lower price point is getting multiple offers, but other stuff is still sitting for a while. So would love to hear kind of what is going on in your market, how this is going to go today. I've got maybe 15 or 20 slides. I'm going to go through with you about how I communicate with sellers. I'm going to hop on and show you my Realvolve and how that works with my workflows. And then at the end, we're going to go through all the questions that you guys submitted. I'm hoping I'll have answered a lot of those already during the presentation. And then we're going to open up the floor to additional questions that you guys might have. If you want to chat with each other, please put any chat stuff in the chat box because we're not going to really be monitoring that in a minute once we get started. If you have questions you want me to answer as I go or at the end, put those in the Q&A box. Sam and Sophie are on here. They're from Realvolve, so they're going to be help monitoring that Q&A section for me. And if it's something they can quickly respond to, they'll respond to on there. If not, then I'll try to address it live as we go along. So that's how it's going to work today. Again, it will be recorded. You will get a copy of the slides. I'm also going to post the slides on my Facebook page, which is Shay Hata Real Estate Speaker and Coach, so you can get them there as well. So let's jump in and get started. Okay, so seller communication. Let's talk about kind of what that is. So When you have a new seller that reaches out to you, here is what I do. Okay. Most of the time, my clients are coming from referrals. I am a very referral based business. I do about 150 ish transactions a year. I have a small team. It's myself, two other realtors, and then four part time assistants. We do about 75 million in volume a year. That's pretty evenly split 50-50 buyers and sellers. Okay. For the last couple of years, we've been very focused heavily on trying to get more sellers because it's been an easy market to sell in and a harder market to buy in. So we want the least amount of work for the biggest reward, which has been sellers over the last couple of years. So we've been actively working on getting more sellers. So most of our business, again, comes referrals. So we'll have somebody reach out to us and say that they got our name from somebody else. They'd like to talk to us about selling their property. And so we respond then via email with a ready to sell survey that we ask them to fill out. And I think, yeah, I've got a copy of that right here. So you can check that out on my website. It's buyselllovechicago.com. Sam, maybe you could type that in the chat box and put the link to the seller survey in there so people could see that.
Yeah.
So this is a Google form. So Google Forms are great. They are free, which is really nice because I am cheap. So they're nice and free. We send them to our potential sellers. We ask them to fill them out. Their contact information, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, why are they wanting to sell, when do they want to sell, what do they think that their property is worth, here's some information about kind of their disc profile, etc. That saves me like a 30-minute phone call with them on the phone. And then what I can do from there is set up a Zoom with them to go over these questions and answers and ask follow-up questions from them. And then they can ask follow-up questions from me. Once we've done that, then we will send them a listing presentation. Most of the time, I don't include a pricing analysis in there because I feel like we need to see their house in person first. We need to figure out, does it smell like cat pee, which is going to impact the value, right? We need to be able to see it and kind of feel it. So once we've sent them kind of just a generic listing presentation about us, sometimes we'll send them some bomb videos about, kind of our team and how we work, things like that. Then we'll ask them if we can pop by and take a look at their place. We also do some additional research on them before then. So we'll stalk them on Google, LinkedIn, Facebook, try to learn as much about them as we can. We will find out if they want to talk to past clients in advance of meeting with us to get any reviews on us. And then we'll also look to see if they have a homeowner's exemption or if they're owed any money from the state. We really like to do our due diligence and, and kind of, show them that we go above and beyond from most realtors. So these are just kind of some examples of some of the questions we have in that survey. So you're welcome to look at that survey online. If they're buying and selling, then we have a different survey that's also online under that seller section on my website, buyselllovechicago.com. And that survey is a ready to buy and sell survey. So it has questions about what they're selling, and then it also has questions about what they're buying as well. So you can see it's a pretty extensive survey. I like asking them what they think their house was worth at the peak of the market, what they think their house is worth now, what do they think the lowest amount of money is that they would take for their house, because that obviously helps me when I'm pricing. If I'm pulling comps, I can get a sense of whether they're a realistic seller or not based on those answers. So then what we'll do is do the listing appointment. So I actually live in Denver, even though my real estate team is in Chicago. It's kind of a funky situation, but I moved here several years ago for my husband's job. And so I run my team from there. So typically one of the other two realtors on my team will go to the listing appointment. They'll walk through the house. They'll look for inspection items. That's a big thing that we do, is point out if we see evidence of water or, something that's going to cause an inspection problem. We'll point that out and ask them to get that fixed. And then we take pictures of the home, video, things like that. My team will send those to me. Typically what we do from there is we both pull comps. So whatever realtor went to their house will pull comps, because we always assign two realtors to every client. So I work with every client, and then it's either Lauren or David from my team is the other person assigned. So they'll pull comps. I'll pull comps, then we'll compare comps, and we'll come up with one pricing together. We will then hop on an additional Zoom call with them. So we have a very extensive process in the beginning, right? They have to fill out a survey. They do an initial Zoom call with us. We go to their house, we look around, we take pictures, we talk about inspection items, etc. Then we hop on another Zoom call a day or two later and go over the pricing with them. We go over our decluttering recommendations, inspection repair recommendations, things like that. So, it's not a quick, simple process, but we find our sellers really like that. They feel like they get a lot of our time, a lot of our attention. They feel like they get a lot of personalized information that other realtors aren't necessarily giving to them. So we'll go over the comps with them. If they disagree with us on the comps at all and on the price, then I'll actually pull up the MLS and I will do comps with them. I'll share my screen on Zoom so they can see how we came up with those comps. We talk a lot about what is stressing them out because I find most of the time we're pretty aligned on price. Most of the time, what is stressing them out is not necessarily the price they're going to get for their home. What is oftentimes stressing them out is something else. How do they buy and sell at the same time? How do they do showings when they're working from home and they're on Zooms all day? How do they do showings with 3 kids at home and a dog and keep the property clean? What are they going to do with all the kid toys? Like, that's typically the stuff that is stressing them out, not price. So we really talk through those things and we come up with solutions for them. So maybe we only do showings at night. Maybe we only do showings on the weekends. Maybe they go out of town or they rent an Airbnb and we put the place on the market and we try to only do showings from Friday until Sunday, the first weekend that they're out of town. We'll do whatever we need to do to make this work for them. And so we really problem solve on that Zoom with them about what is stressing them out and how can we help them. We also take them through a seller net sheet so that they can see exactly what amount of money they're going to walk away with, because that's kind of the second most important thing. Most of the time, I don't really feel that they care about what price they sell for. If you actually drill down, what they care about is how much they're going to walk away and put in their pocket. So if I get any sort of pushback on my commissions, I always say to them, do you care what you pay me, or do you care what you walk away with in terms of price in your pocket? And they always say, I don't really care what I pay you. I care what I walk away with. I want the most amount of money in my pocket. And so I say, great, then this is what I charge. If I can get this price for you and you can walk away with this amount of money, are you happy? And they'll say, yeah, that's great. That's more money than I thought. And it takes my commission conversation off the table if I focus on their net rather than what I'm going to charge. So I go through that with them on the phone call as well with them Zooms. We also create a top 10 list, which I'll show you a copy of, kind of top 10 reasons they love living in their home. So we show that to them on the call and kind of mock that up. And what I have really found is that they need to like me and they need to trust me. So I need to be honest. I need to be enthusiastic about their house. And if I can build that trust over those Zoom calls, they go with me hands down. It's very rare that I lose out to another agent. And most of the time, sellers who are interviewing me, they're interviewing 2 or 3 agents. So it's not like they just come to me and want to work with me. Almost all of them are interviewing other people. So I have to really earn their business. One of the ways that we do that is that we always have Sherry's Berries delivered after we've done the listing appointment, typically before we do the Zoom appointment. So we'll have chocolate covered strawberries delivered from Sherry's Berries saying, thanks so much for letting us come to your house and take a look around. We really look forward to the opportunity to work with you. I am not above bribing people to like me, and I find sending gifts helps with that. And so for the $50, it costs me to send somebody chocolate covered strawberries and I can get their listing. To me, that's a really worthwhile trade-off, okay? One of the things we really talk to them about is prepping the property. And I find, even in markets where stuff is selling really fast, that it's important that you prep a property well. So we go through everything that needs to be decluttered with them. We have people who will come in and help them declutter. If they feel they need help for that, they pay for that on their own. We don't pay for that. And then I'm very into stagers. So I have a niche stager who will come over and just do art and accessories, and kind of fluff things up if their stuff isn't super cute. I also have, full stagers who will come over and, completely stage an empty property. And then I have partial stagers. Maybe they have really ugly furniture in their office. And so I want that furniture out and I want cool office furniture brought in. We try to make sure we have queen beds in every room. Unless it's a kid's room, then we'll do a twin, but otherwise we want queen beds. And we tell them they have to do lots of repairs. I want new caulk in all the showers. I want things freshly painted. I want flowers outside the front door. I want a wreath on the front door. I want a new clean doormat, because you really only have a chance to make a first impression once at a showing. I'm also big on pre-inspections for single family homes. So making sure that home is in good shape. I don't necessarily share that pre-inspection report report with the buyers, especially if it wasn't a good report, but that lets us figure out what repairs do we need to do to keep this property under contract once we go under contract. If I'm selling a condo, I will, have somebody come over and check the roof on the condo building and tuck pointing and things like that, just to make sure that everything is in good shape. If it's a really hard to comp property and maybe the seller and I do not agree on the price, in Chicago, you can get really funky, weird properties that are hard to comp where there are no comps, right? So then I will talk to them about doing an appraisal, a private appraisal before we go on the market. And I split the cost of them with that. Usually it's about $350. So I pay $175, they pay $175. And I say, look, an appraisal isn't a be all end all, but it gives us another data point to go on, especially because you think your property is worth 400. I think it's worth 325. Let's have an independent third party come to the table with his or her opinion, and then we can use that to try to figure out what we think it should price for. That also helps me if we have appraisal issues, because I can say, hey, seller, I know you think your property is worth 400. The appraiser only said 300. I'm saying 325. Like, there's no way we're going to get 400. It's not going to appraise out for that. So I find pre-appraisals can be very helpful if I can't get on the same page with the seller, because what I typically say to the seller is, look, you have to decide which agent you think is the best agent, who you like the most, and who you trust. Price doesn't matter. We'll figure out the price later. So if you like me and you think I'm going to do a good job for you, even if we don't agree on the price, hire me and we'll figure out the pricing thing. That's secondary. The first is that you have an agent who's going to work hard and trust you. So oftentimes we don't even get into pricing conversations until we've talked a couple of times. I also keep reminding them what is their bottom line, right? That's why I like that line on that ready to sell survey. So if they say, well, hey, I really want 350, but my bottom line is 300 and we're not getting any offers at 350, I'll keep reminding them, I know you wanted 350, but you said your bottom line was 300. I do require my sellers ahead of time to sign price adjustment plans. So before I put my properties in the MLS and we go live, I will have my sellers sign an agreement saying at 21 days, we are going to drop the price. Typically, I try to do that in $25,000 increments, which I know sounds like a massive price drop, and it is, because that's how most people search. So my feeling is if you're priced at 350 and you drop to 345, what was the point, right? Like, you're not getting a different set of buyers at 345. Whoever was looking at 350 is still looking at 345. Right? So my feeling is you have to get down to 325 to get new eyeballs on the listing, because people are going to search up to 300, 325, 350, etc. Okay. Some markets you can do pocket listings. My market you can. I know a lot of markets around the country you're not allowed to do that. So in a market where you can do pocket listings, I talk to them about kind of the pros and cons of that as well. Then once they decide to work with us, then that's when we really start to use our Realvolve workflows, which I'm going to get into in just a second. One of the things we ask them to do in those Realvolve workflows is fill out a survey about their house, because nothing bothers me more than a buyer's agent reaching out to me with a question about the house and I don't know the answer to it. That makes me feel really stupid. I consider myself a smart person. I don't like feeling stupid. So I want to know the age of the roof, the windows, when the HVAC was last serviced, if they've had water, if they've had pest issues, etc. So we have all of our sellers fill out this very extensive survey about their property. We have one for single families and one for condos. Again, these are Google forms. So they are free forms you can fill out and make on Google. You just need a Gmail account to do it, and then you'll have access to these. And you do not have to be tech savvy to make these. I am not tech savvy. They literally are just kind of like using a Microsoft Word document. They're very easy to use. And then you can send them to your clients to fill out, okay? Something else we also try to do is be a little bit different for our sellers. So we always have a sign near the front door saying, welcome to your new home, go exploring, ask questions, blah, blah, blah. Next to that, we have very beautiful brochures that we have printed. And I don't care if the property is 100,000 or 2.5 million, they're getting the same really nice brochure. Okay. I think it's important to treat every seller the same. So we do professional photos for every seller, a floor plan for every seller. We'll either do a Matterport tour or a drone video of the house for every seller. Again, I don't care if it's 100,000 or 3 million, they're all getting treated the same. We also have little signs that we put all around the property with features that may not be apparent to the naked eye. So things like, this is a wood burning fireplace with a gas starter. This shower is a steam shower with radiant heat in the floor. We have one in the kitchen with the ages of all of the kitchen appliances. We have one in the utility room with the age of the furnace, the AC, the water heater, etc. And sometimes I'll have clients who come to me, my sellers, and they'll say, well, do you think we should really point out that, that this refrigerator is 25 years old? And I'm like, have you looked at it? It doesn't look brand new. Like, we're not fooling anybody here, right? I would rather be honest with people so that when they go under contract, they understand what they're getting and buying, so that they don't come back after inspection and say, hey, I want $5,000 for a new furnace because I didn't realize this furnace was 20 years old. And my suggestion for that is, there was literally a sign on the furnace saying it was 20 years old. We also had it in the MLS. We also had a buyer information sheet that had the ages of everything, which we required you read and sign before we accepted your offer. So I don't really know how you didn't know it was 20 years old when we accepted your offer, because it was in these 3 different places and you signed saying you read that it was 20 years old. So no, we're not going to give you any money for the furnace, right? So think about how you can go above and beyond and protect your clients, okay? So this is a copy of that building information sheet. So we put these together, whether it's a single family home or a condo, with the ages of everything on it. If my clients do not know the ages of something like the roof, I have a roofer come out and look at it and give me the age. I get the tags from all of the appliances, all the mechanicals. I don't, but my assistant looks up the ages of all of those online. Like, that is your job to get that information. So if you don't have that information, do your job and get it, okay? And then this is something we have in the brochures, and it's something we require every buyer sign before we agree to take their offer. So there is no confusion about ages of things, okay? We also have our sellers check it all to make sure that it's correct. We also do a top 10 reasons that they'll love living in the home. This is something that we put in the brochures and that we print and we have next to the brochures so people can read it during showings. And we want this stuff to be about the area. Like, I don't want to say like, oh, the kitchen's so beautiful with white cabinets and white quartz counters. People can see that, right? I want this to be about, we have amazing neighbors who water our plants and, take out our trash and, bring in boxes when we're out of town, and our neighborhood has a block party and you can bike to the elementary school, like stuff they may not realize that's actually really important when somebody buys a house, okay? So this is one of the things that we'll mock up during that listing presentation, that second one over Zoom. We also are big with donating to charity. So we donate to charity from every closing that we have, and our clients get to choose whether they're going to have their donation go to the local school in their area or to an animal rescue group. I'm a big animal rescue supporter. So at our showings and our open houses, we have these little poop bag dog holders that people can take, and we have a little sign next to it explaining that our team donates a portion of each commission to local schools or local animal shelters. And that alone gets us clients, because people want to work with people that they like. They want to work with people who are kind, in my opinion, and who give back to the community. It's like, does anybody remember buying Tom's shoes like 10 years ago? They were the absolute worst shoes in the whole wide world. And I think I owned 10 pairs of them in 10 different colors, because it was like the cool thing to do. And they donated to like children in Africa that had no shoes. And so you felt good about these awful shoes that you paid $50 for that had no sole support and everything like that, because it was a cool company who was doing good, right? Same thing. You want to be that cool company doing good, so people want to learn how to work with you, okay? Photography and marketing. Again, I think you need professional photos. Doing them on your iPhone does not cut it, okay? Every property should have a floor plan, in my opinion. Properties with floor plans sell 4 times faster on average, according to Zillow, than properties without floor plans. And you should have at least 25 photos, is my opinion. That's kind of the magic number on Zillow to get high on the search results list, okay? I also think it's really important to do a 3D Matterport tour. So we do those on all of our properties. We also have what's called a DJI Osmo Pocket. These are great. They're little cameras with stabilizers. And so what we will do is we will walk around a property and essentially do a showing. And we show things you can't see in the photos and the Matterport tour. So we'll open the fridge. We'll show the insides of the closets. We'll walk to the elementary school. We'll walk to the coffee shop. And then we'll speed all that up on editing so that the video is only a couple of minutes long. So our sellers love these. It doesn't cost us anything other than the initial investment for this camera, which was about $400. And it's a great marketing tool for yourself and for all of your listings. Okay. I'm a big fan of Box Brownie. I box brownie my photos all the time. So I do dusk to dawn on a lot of my photos, which you'll see on the left-hand side here, where it makes it look like it's a nighttime shot, where they turn the lights on inside the house. They do a sunset outside the house. We always do a picture, usually with the front door open. We have all of these wreaths from Target that we buy, that we put on our listings. Because again, that first impression to me is really important. That's so funny. That's my purse and my hat. I just realized in that picture that I put there for the picture. Anyway, okay. So then once you've kind of agreed you're going to work with these people, you've got the photography, etc., then you start to have to really focus on the communication, which is what we're going to spend most of the rest of the time talking about today. Okay. So my opinion is that listing agents do not communicate enough with their sellers. You should be communicating with your seller every single day from the moment they decide to work with you until you go under contract and then until you close, okay? So what do you talk to them about, right? That's where Realvolve becomes very helpful. So I'm going to show you that in just a second. In addition to the stuff that is going out via Realvolve, every Monday I call my sellers via Slide Dial, which is an app because I don't like to talk on the phone. And so it goes right to their voicemail. And so I'll leave them a message saying like, hey, it's Monday. I want to check in and see how the decluttering went this weekend. Are you ready for photos on Wednesday? Don't forget, we're going to be there at 9:30, or maybe we had an open house, but we don't have any offers. And I'll say, hey, I know that we had 2 open houses this weekend. We don't have any offers, but I followed up with everybody. Here's the feedback I'm getting. I feel like it's really important to talk to your sellers on Monday because they've been obsessing all weekend about their house. And so you want to be proactive and head them off. Every Tuesday, if we're on the market, I have an automatic email that goes out from Realvolve asking them if they want an open house that weekend if we haven't gone under contract yet. Every Wednesday, we email them a status report, okay? So that status report shows them online search traffic if we're not under contract yet from places like Zillow, the MLS, etc. If we are under contract, then it talks to them about what is going on with the deal. So we'll call the lender, get an update with where things are with the lender. We're waiting for appraisal, files in for clear to close, whatever it is. So that goes out to them so they know exactly what's going on. If we are under contract, every Friday, I have them set up in the MLS as if they were a buyer, and I send to them new competition that came on the market that week so they can see what their competition is. And then I also have a search set up showing them properties like theirs, the competition that went under contract. And I literally call that the rejected search when it goes to them, because I want them to understand other stuff is selling. Here's why. Oftentimes that means we're overpriced and we need to drop the price. So they need to see that rejected search and they need to feel the pain of knowing that buyers picked other people over their house and why, okay? So seller blog posts. This is what I use a lot with Realvolve. So you can go onto my website again, buyselllovechicago.com, and you can see under the seller section, there's steps to sell, and there's about 31 steps. These are very detail oriented, okay? So these are in part what we use in our Realvolve. So I'm going to pull up my Realvolve for you right now. So give me a second so that I can get into that and show you exactly how these workflows work, okay? So for sellers, I have 3 different Realvolve workflows. I have a prospective seller workflow. Okay, all right. Sam, can you see my screen now for Realvolve?
Yes, it's looking good.
Perfect. All right. So I have 3 different seller workflows. So one of them is a prospective seller workflow. Okay. I'm not going to really go through that one extensively today, but that one is a 1-year workflow where essentially they get an email from me every month about getting their home ready to sell. So these are for people who maybe I meet at an open house. They're not quite ready to sell yet. They might be ready to sell in a year. So it's things like, are estimates accurate? Okay. Reminding them to file their homeowner's exemption, repairs they should be doing now to get their home ready. So it's really like frequently asked questions and answers for sellers. How long does it take to sell your home? So, how far in advance should they think about putting their house on the market? What are going to be the documents they need to sell? What's the best day of the week to list their home? Okay. What are the fees to sell their home? So think about, for this workflow, what are frequently asked questions that your sellers oftentimes have, and that's what should be in that prospective seller workflow. So anybody you meet who might want to sell in the next year or so, put them on that workflow so you're staying in front of them and you're positioning yourself as the expert. So when they're ready to sell, they're going to want to call you. Okay. Then once they call us and they decide to actually start to work with us, they get moved to our seller current workflow. Okay. So that's this one right here. So this is somebody who says, yes, Shay, I want to work with you after we do that online Zoom presentation. I'm like, great. We're going to get you all set up. So we put them on this workflow. You can see on the left side here, for those of you who aren't familiar with Realvolve, this is kind of what the activity is. In the middle here, it's whether it's a to-do or an email. Okay, so you can see at the beginning, these are mainly to-dos, and then they start to switch over to emails that go out automatically. So a lot of this workflow is going to be in the beginning to-dos, and then it starts to switch to things that go out automatically. I'm all about having systems where things can just happen automatically without us having to do any of those things, okay? Over here, then you can see when this occurs, so how many days after the start date of the workflow, and then on the right-hand side, who it's assigned to. So essentially, I have very little tasks assigned to me. Rhonda is my transaction coordinator. So pretty much anything that has to get done other than the seller's net sheet goes to Rhonda, and she takes care of doing it. Or Deanne is our kind of gift person who sends out those Sherry's berries to them, okay? Once it starts to be more email communication, all email communication comes from me through Realvolve automatically to the clients, okay? So some things that are in this, obviously we talked about the seller's net sheet. We'll ask them for a plat of survey. I ask them their internet name and password so that when we're at their house for showings, we can get on there. I have them sign that price reduction ahead of time. We'll put the photography date in here because then that triggers later on in this workflow reminders for them automatically that like, hey, tomorrow is when we're gonna do the photos. Here's about how long they take. Make sure you've decluttered, all of those kinds of things, okay? We send them that Google questionnaire that I showed you. That goes out automatically so they can fill that out. My assistant, one of my other assistants will find out for me if we need quotes for anything. Do we need quotes for painting, repairs, etc.? If so, Anna, who handles our quotes, will get all of that set up and scheduled. So we'll set up this quotes and get them scheduled and things like that, but the seller has to approve the quotes and pay the bills, okay? One of the things that we do too is we ask the seller to write a letter to the buyers that we give the buyers at the inspection. So we do this way ahead of time before we've even gone under contract. And what we have found is we really want the buyers to like the sellers, because if we do, the transaction goes more smoothly. And even when properties were selling all as is, the buyer asks for less stuff of the sellers if they like the sellers. So this has been kind of a game changer for us. So the sellers will just write a generic letter of like, hey, and then we fill in their names. We're so excited that you're buying this house. We've loved living here. We hope you love living here too. After closing, we're going to introduce you to our neighbors, Betty and Tom, who bring in the mail and all that kind of stuff. I know you have kids, so we'll kind of update these letters once we've gone under contract. There's like 8 kids who live down the street who I'm sure would be super excited to play with your kids. We'll be happy to introduce you to them after closing as well. Here's some things you should know about the house. Here's why we love it. That kind of stuff to get the buyers really excited for the house. And so then we leave those at the inspection, and later on in here it asks the sellers before the inspection to pick up some snacks, because I also find hungry buyers are bad buyers, and I do not want the buyers to be hungry at the inspection or the inspector. Okay, so we feed them, or our sellers feed them. So we have our sellers put out water, beverages, snacks. We have a little note there saying please feel free to eat and help yourself, and we have that note there for the buyers to take with them. Okay, this even asks them to, drop off copies of keys at our office. Like really anything we can automate, we've automated in here for them, okay? We talked to them about learning to mistrust email, wire fraud, the dangers of that. This is a checklist on here of us to put a lockbox on the property, make copies of the keys if we need to. So literally anything that has to get done with this transaction is in this workflow. So it's really a checklist for us of all the things we have to do, along with the emails that go out to the sellers, okay? Some other communication that goes to them, we ask them to claim their home on Zillow. We create that building info sheet, which we have them sign off on. If it's a condo, we request the building docs from the property manager. So we put the property manager in here. An automated email goes out to the property manager asking them for those condo docs. We ask our sellers to prep their home for sale online. So we talk to them about, please take down any pictures that have your children's names on them, the college you went to. We don't want those things in the photos as identifying information. We ask them if they have recording devices in the house, and if so, we tell them to please take them down, or we need to put a note up warning buyers that there are recording devices in the house, right? So the nice thing is when you get really organized like this in Realvolve, you can start to think of all of these other things that you should be doing to give your clients an amazing customer service experience. But the problem I find is when you don't have workflows like this set up, you're scrambling to do all this stuff manually. And so it's really hard to expand that client service experience and think about all of these other cool things that you should be doing for your clients, okay? So you can see, like, we have a massive amount of checklist items and automatic emails. Here you can see 21 days after we do that pricing analysis and have that repositioning discussion on the price with the sellers, right? So you can see things go out automatically the day before the photography appointment. That photo reminder email goes out to them, okay? So we are literally talking to them every single day until we go on the market, okay? This even talks them through open houses, what they should expect at open houses, how to prepare for open houses, valuables they need to take out of the house with them for open houses, all of those kinds of things to get them through getting an offer, okay? Once we get an offer, then they move to our seller under contract workflow. So that is a 90-step workflow that's here. That takes them from under contract to close, okay? And what I really love about Realvolve, and the reason I picked Realvolve, because I couldn't really find any other CRMs that do this, is that you can put milestone dates in Realvolve and have communications go out from those milestone dates. What I mean by that is you can put in the inspection date and time, the appraisal date and time, the closing date and time, the final walkthrough date and time, okay? And then you can have communications go out. So the day before the inspection, I can have an email going out to the buyer's agent, reminding them of the inspection, going out to the buyer's agent, reminding them, reminding the inspector to show up for the inspection. I can have an email going out to my seller, saying, hey, don't forget, tomorrow the inspection is at 10 a.m. Please make sure you don't have any clothes in the washing machine because they're gonna run the washing machine. If you have dishes in the dishwasher, put soap in there because they're going to run the dishwasher, okay? Whatever else, make sure recording devices are turned off, make sure you put your snacks out, all those kinds of things, right? And those are things I don't have to think about because they automatically happen through Realvolve. I can also set this up so that once a week, I have an email going out to the lender saying, hey, I want to check in. How is the file coming from the buyer? Do you still anticipate that we're going to have clear to close on time and meet the closing date, right? That's important information for me to know. So that email goes out to them every week, and every week I want an update from the lender, okay? So these are all the things you can do in Realvolve when you can put those milestone dates in. What I find most other CRMs do not work well for real estate because all you can do is the start date, okay? And that's fine for some of the things, but you need to really be able to get in here and put communications out based on other dates like the closing date, the mortgage approval date, okay? The final walkthrough date, all of that kind of stuff if you're really going to be efficient. This system allows me to have very part-time staff. So I have 4 assistants. In total, they work about 50 hours a week. So my employee costs are very, very low because we are so automated. So my transaction coordinator, who handles 150, 175 deals a year, she does so working 20 hours a week on average because everything is done through Realvolve automatically. So all she has to do is each morning she gets up, looks at her checklist of stuff she's supposed to do in Realvolve that day, does those things, and just make sure everything is working smoothly and happening, right? If you don't have a system like this, you're probably going to have 3 or 4 full-time people, and that's going to cost you a fortune. So it's much better if you can do it through a system like Realvolve. It's much cheaper, even if you have to pay for Realvolve, because you're not having to pay for staff to handle all of these things, okay? So essentially, this workflow takes them through closing. It reminds us to pick up closing packets, drop off the keys, remove the sign, literally anything you can think of that has to do with the transaction is in this checklist. Even things like moving boxes. We have an email that goes out to our sellers the day after they move, and it says, hey, I hope the move went well. If you have moving boxes you don't want anymore, please let us know. We always have clients who are moving. I'm sure they'd love to come and pick up your moving boxes for free. It's good for the environment. You don't have to figure out how to get rid of your moving boxes. And then we're able to text clients, hook them up, and our clients who are moving will go to our clients who just moved and pick up their moving boxes for free, right? We even thank the co-op realtor. So we have an email that goes out to the co-op realtor a day after closing, thanking them for doing the transaction with us. And we send them a $10 Starbucks e-gift card. You can bet that helps us out in multiple offer situations in the future when we have an offer in with that same agent, because that agent remembers we were super organized, we were good to work with, we were polite, right? We sent them a Starbucks gift card. So I can't tell you how many times we've won multiple offers, not necessarily being the highest offer, but because the agent will come back to their clients and say, Shay is a really good realtor to work with. She will make this drama free. It will close on time. She will communicate with us. So even if her offer is a couple $1,000s less, we highly recommend you take her offer because it will be a smooth transaction. So all this kind of stuff really makes a big difference. Okay. So I'll kind of scroll through this slowly so that on the replay, you can kind of take a look at this and screenshot, but you can see like, here's the Starbucks gift card to the buyer's agent, etc. So literally anything we can think of goes in here. What's also cool is you can set these up to text. So one nice feature of Realvolve is that it has a texting option and a dialer option. So after close, we have this workflow go for a couple of months. This is set up so it will text the client and say, hey, it's been 45 days since you closed. How are you liking your new house? Have you met your neighbors yet? Then 90 days after close, they'll get another text saying, hey, I just wanted to check in and see how is everything going at the house? Do you need anything from me? Okay. So we have these set up 6 months after close and 1 year after close. At that time, they also then move to a closed client workflow, which is a whole other workflow that I'm not going to get into today. You can also set up more text during the transaction. You can put in here that you want to call them every week if you want, and you can call them through the Realvolve dialer program, and it will actually record the phone call for you so you can go back and listen to it later. Okay, so there's just a lot of really cool things that you can do in this program. So hopefully that gave you some ideas for communicating with your clients, kind of getting the listing, but then also some things that you can do to communicate with them. Even as simple as like hiring a cleaning person. We send out a notice to them being like, hey, you don't have to by law clean your house in Illinois, but it's kind of the nice thing to do for the buyers. So like hire a cleaning person or clean the house yourself. If you don't have a cleaning person, we can hire them for you as long as you're willing to pay the bill. Just let us know, right? Send them reminders to end their utilities the day after closing so you don't show up to the final walkthrough on the day of closing and there's no utilities on, right? So think of all the problems that you've had in transactions. Almost all of those problems can be solved through communicating proactively ahead of time to your clients. And those are the kinds of things that should be in Realvolve. So hopefully that answered a bunch of the questions. Sam, I know we had people submit questions. Can you kind of go run any I didn't answer, and I'll answer those, and then we'll open it up the floor to other questions.
Absolutely. So I couldn't help but thinking, and if anyone's curious, the last session we did with Shay, we did post close, right? So if you want the full picture, I can make sure we get you that recording as well. Just respond to the invite to this session and I'll get that over to you. All of this or none of this can be replaced or shortcutted. The more I listen to Shay and the more I hear her talk about her processes, there's never one thing that Shay does that's like, oh, you just got to do this one thing and everything works, right? And hearing a lot of people talk about before we hopped into this about inventory, yeah, there's low inventory, it's very difficult. But what I would ask everybody is your seller process so wound tight that every single opportunity that you get in front of a potential seller, you are absolutely maximizing every chance you have to get that listing, right?
Yeah.
And if you haven't thought through this and you're looking for listings, think through this first, because you don't want to, oh, I'm in front of a seller. Let me just the night before throw together a presentation and then let me think about this. It's so important. And it all comes back to the feeling that Shay and her team have with their clients. It is a really good experience. People love it. And like she said earlier, price objections don't come up because people feel like they're really being taken care of and they're having a blast, right? How do you have a blast selling your home? I don't know, but this is how Shay does it. So I think we'll start, Shay, with the Q&A. Put your Q&As. We have some more coming in right now, which is fantastic. And we'll kind of start from the earliest and kind of go from there. Jim had asked about starting in a new market. Now, you didn't quite do that, Shay. You stayed in your current market. You're still licensed in Chicago, and now you live in Denver. But Jim, I'm assuming you are starting in an entirely new market. That might be an opportunity, Shay, to kind of go back to maybe how you started in real estate to begin with, kind of share that and how you might do this if you started over.
Yeah, I mean, so I actually set up all of these systems before I had my first transaction. So, I moved to Chicago and I didn't know a single person. At the time I moved with my husband, I didn't know anybody other than him. And I didn't know anything about real estate. He'd been in real estate forever. I had not. And I kind of jumped into real estate with both feet, but I really had the firm belief that if you build it, they will come. And so I spent my first 3 years. I didn't have a lot of transactions. I had one transaction my first year for 131,000, and that was it. But I spent those first 3 years setting up systems, and that is when I set up all of these workflows. So I literally set this workflow up before I had done a single transaction. I had no sellers, but I went through and I figured out, okay, if I have a seller, what are the steps I need to do to make this as easy on me as I can and as easy on my seller as possible and as smooth of a transaction as possible. And then over the years, we started adding in other things like, the letter to the buyers at the inspection and things like that, and kind of fine tuning, but I would say really start with your systems. Look at where you're missing systems, because it's going to take a long time to get clients. And so you don't want to just waste your time, so the time that you don't have clients, focus on these systems, because how I run my business is very different from most other realtors, and sellers and buyers feel that. And they come back to me and they say, it was such a different experience working with you. It was so organized. It was so streamlined compared to what we're used to, that we want to work with you again. And they give my name out to kind of everybody they know. And they say, you have to call Shay. She has an amazing system. Like, you're going to be really well taken care of. So I would say, start with your systems, get Google Forms into place. I even have a Google form people fill out if they're going to make an offer. I send it to them and they fill it out, and then I type up the offer, right? So figure out, what can you use Google Forms for? What can you use Realvolve for? At the same time, you're going to have to do lead generation, so get out there in your community, do open houses, become part of a networking group, those kinds of things. But simultaneously on your downtime, set up all of these systems in Realvolve. And I know Charlene asked, can we get a sample of the buyer letter from the seller? I can send that to you, Sam, if you want one of those samples. Yeah. And if you want to send that out when you send out the slides, that's totally fine with me. Perfect. Sandy asked, so much is automatic for items that don't pertain to a client. Do you turn actions off? Yes, Sandy, and I'm so glad you asked that, because that's a really important question. One of the things I love about the Realvolve workflows is, before you assign a workflow to somebody, it's going to come up with the list of every action, all 100 actions in that workflow with little check boxes next to it. You can just uncheck any actions that don't pertain to that particular client. So an example of that in these workflows would be, if somebody's selling a single family house, I probably have half a dozen tasks in there that only relate to condos, getting the HOA documents, stuff like that. So we just go through and turn those actions off so that they're not happening for that particular client. So that's one of the great things about Realvolve, is that it's flexible in that way. So it's not going to automatically assign every task in the workflow to a client. You can pick and choose the ones that you want to do. Somebody said, I see everything is Chicago based. Will this system work in Florida? So this is my system for Chicago. You're going to set up your own system for Florida. You're going to set up your own workflow. I created this workflow. You're going to create yours. So you would set it up for however things work in Florida. So we have 2 earnest money payments in Chicago. You probably only have 1 in Florida. So you would just set it up saying there's 1. So it's very customizable, because you make the workflow for your market. Okay. Linda Martin asked, do I send out to both if 2 sellers or buyers, to avoid surprises as to who or isn't in charge? I'm not sure what you mean, Linda. Do you send out to both? So I'm not sure if you mean if somebody's buying and selling at the same time. So if they are buying and selling, usually we set them up on the sell side instead of for the workflow, and we just send that out to them. And then on the buy side, I'll just send them a few things that they need to know, so we're not overwhelming them. I'm hoping that answered your question. If it didn't, please feel free to type another question in. Please post Shay's email. So sure, that's you can reach me at shay@shayhata.com. That's my email address if anybody wants to reach out. Then Michelle wrote, seller and post closing, please. I have just signed up with Realvolve and need to get rolling. I need some help moving forward. So there's a couple things you can do, Michelle. You can create your own workflows, which is what I did. You can buy my workflows. My workflows are available in the workflow library section to buy. If you don't want to have to create your own workflows, and then you can just go through and kind of edit them for your particular market. There's also other workflows in the workflow library that you can either purchase or get for free. Sam, I don't know now with Realvolve, like do the workflows that they get for free when they sign up, are any of those post closing or seller specific? Maybe you can talk about that.
I'll have to check. I'm not sure. I know we have a lot of like lead flow and transaction if you just have a basic account with Realvolve, but a lot of options. If you want us to help you build these out entirely, we can help you through our Navigator program. And we're especially on workflows. So definitely, if you want your business to run like Shay, if you see value in what she's done with her, seller contract to close, reach out to her in that email she just gave, because she sells those workflows directly. As far as, we're always, we have this workflow library. You can go to the website, you can go to the workflow library. Yes, I mean, tons of stuff there. There's seller, there's buyer, there's post close, there's long-term nurture, a lot of really good stuff and options for you there.
Perfect. All right. So then a couple of other questions. So Linda asked, oh, so you're saying, Linda, one person does tasks, not the other. One decides and one is not the decision maker. So then you would just have to decide who gets the workflow. So in some of those instances, say the wife is the only one who wants to get those emails and the husband could care less, then we only put the wife on the workflow. Maybe both of them want to be on the workflow, but the wife's going to be the only one who does the task. So the husband can read the emails and delete them, and and the wife can do them, or maybe the husband's going to do the task, whatever. So to me, that's just a conversation you need to have with your sellers and say, hey, we're going to be sending out these emails so you always know what's going on and what you're supposed to be doing. Do you want both of those on them, or do you just want one of you on them? And then you can decide how to do that. So hopefully that answered your question, Linda. Bobby asked, can I see a sample of the detailed home feature checklist that the seller shares with the agent, perhaps to the potential buyer? Sure, I can get back to showing you that if you just give me a second. I can show you that. So there's sort of two things. One is the survey, that Google survey that we have them fill out, because that's where we get all the information. And then we take that Google survey and we put it in this buyer information sheet that looks like this. This is one for a condo. So we also have the same kind of version that's just for a single family house. And in there, that's where we list the ages of everything, the property taxes, if there's HOA fees, how much those are, how old the roof is, who's the property manager, if there's rental restrictions, pet restrictions, all of those kinds of things. So Bobby, hopefully that answered your question. And then Sandra asked, are my workflows included with my coaching services? They are. So I do coaching as well. You can get information about that on my website, which is buyselllovechicago.com. Under the about section, there's a page on my coaching and how that works and the costs and things like that. So my clients who coach with me, they get all of my workflows for free as part of that coaching program. So hopefully that answers that question, Sandra. And then Donnell asked, I'm very new to Realvolve. Is there in-house training available? Sam, do you want to take that one?
Yes. Yeah, Donnell, absolutely. I'll shoot you an email after this, but we have a lot of different options between Fast Start. We have self-serve courses, right? If you just want to watch the videos, take the courses, get the workflows, we have those options as well. And then we have one-on-one consulting. So no matter your preference, we've got you covered. I'll shoot you an email there, Donnell.
Perfect. And then Michelle had a question, Sam, about who should I contact if I have paid for the Navigator program? So how do they get started with that?
Yeah, I'm not sure, Michelle. I'll have to kind of see where we're at with that. Um, I would say reach out to your navigator, Lisa Crumby, or if you have Kendra or Abigail, any of our navigators there, whoever you're working with closely. If you see anything here that you want to implement and you want to have them help build this custom for you, reach out to them.
Yep.
Let's
Perfect. Okay,
see.
great. All right. Anybody have any other questions? Sam, for the questions that got submitted ahead of time, do you want to take a quick
Yeah,
look at those and see if there's any of those that I have not answered yet while we wait to see if other people have questions to type in?
I did have one person was asking if you do have to reduce the price on a listing, how do you approach that? Is there anything you do to kind of soften the blow for the seller?
Yeah. So that's why I have that conversation ahead of time, because what I have found over the past 12 years that I've been doing this is that sellers are somewhat rational until they get on the market. Then usually I find about 24 hours before they get on the market, they start to get crazy. And all of a sudden they're like, I think my house is worth $50,000 more than what we talked about. And I'm like, did you update the kitchen overnight that I didn't know about, or like put a new roof on? Like what happened overnight that your house is now worth $50,000 more than it was yesterday? And they're like, oh no, nothing, I just thought about it. So like I find usually about 24 to 48 hours before we go on the market, sellers get crazy. So that's why I find it's good to have that pricing discussion with them a couple of weeks ahead of time and say, here is the plan, we are going to try this price. If we do not get an offer at that price within 3 weeks, we are then going to reduce the price to X. Are you on board with that? Because at that point, they're still somewhat rational. And I
Mm,
have them sign the form saying on this date, we are dropping the price to this price. Okay. So then I keep reminding them of that, so if we don't get a showing after the open house, and we got a good number of people through, I'll say to them, look, we had a good number of people through. My philosophy is for every 10 showings or people who come to an open house, you should have an offer. So if we've had 10 people through and we haven't had an offer, there's a problem. Either people aren't liking something in the house that they feel isn't updated, or it's not the right size, or whatever it is, or it's a pricing issue. So let's look at those two things. Is there something we can do to improve in the house? Maybe we can paint the kitchen cabinets white. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe, there's too much furniture in one of the rooms, whatever it is. And we'll try to adjust that stuff the first 3 weeks. But if we've made those changes and it's still not selling, then it's a pricing issue.
mm,
So we've got to drop that price. So that's an ongoing conversation with my clients every week about the feedback and what I think of the price. And then really when we get
mm.
to that 21-day mark, I'm like, hey, it's the day, as you know, that we're dropping the price. Occasionally I won't. If we're getting a ton of showings and a ton of interest and we just haven't gotten an offer, I'll say, hey, look, let's go one more week before we drop the price. Like, I'm not hard on that date, but I do want to hold their feet to the fire, or at least have them think that, so that I'm not having that conversation with them later on. So to me, that's why it's important to have that conversation earlier before they actually go on the market and get crazy. Okay. So hopefully that answers that question. Somebody asked, when did I start using Realvolve? Difference in my business hours and volume. I started using Realvolve about 7 or 8 years ago, and it made a vast difference in the hours that I work. I work from 8 until 3 when my son is in school, and then I usually do another hour or two of work at night after he goes to bed. And I'm able to do 150 transactions. And during that time, I usually take 2 hours out of the day and I go work out. I usually take an hour bath every day and I do some work in the bath. So like I have a very good work-life balance for the most part. And that is solely because of Realvolve, to be very honest and frank with you. I could not have the work-life balance and do the volume that I did if things were not automated through systems, mainly Realvolve. Okay. And because of that, it allows me to give my clients a much better customer service experience. And so I think that's primarily why we're referral based, is people have such a good experience that they're constantly are raving fans and sharing our name with other people. And to me, like, as silly as that sounds, that truly all comes back to Realvolve, because it allows us to automate all that stuff and make sure we're giving everybody a great experience. Suzette asked, do I have a YouTube channel? Honestly, I think so. I think my team set one up, and I think there's some recordings on it from a couple of years ago, but it's not anything I have ever gone to or looked at. So I don't know what's on it. Hopefully it's not anything bad. So you can look on there and see there might be some old recordings, but it's nothing that I've kept up to date. Seniors, so Jeanette asked, senior subdivision and sellers all want to sell themselves because houses move fast. Any special tips to talk to them about that? Oh yeah, I love that when people are like, I'm going to sell myself. And I'm like, that's Awesome. Let's talk about all the legal liability you're going to have. And I'm like, okay, I want to make sure you understand to be very careful not to violate fair housing. So you can't talk about this is a great neighborhood for a family. You can't talk about all these other things. And then typically I scare them enough that they go, oh my gosh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to get sued. And I'm like, great, I will help you with that. So, if they really want to sell it themselves, go for it. Rock on with your bad self. There is enough business out there. I'm not going to spend a ton of time with people who want to do for sale by owners. I'm going to go off to somebody else. But I think, being there as a resource, it is not easy to sell your own house, right?
Yep.
That's why they have realtors. So, have a good relationship with those people, give them some information that's going to be helpful to them, and then leave your card and say, hey, if you end up needing help, if this doesn't work out for you to sell it on your own, try it, go for it. Hopefully it does. But if it doesn't, I'm here for you. To me, you don't ever want to burn a bridge. So, help them a little bit, make them understand how hard this is and the legal ramifications, wire fraud. How are they going to protect themselves from wire fraud? That usually scares seniors, all those kinds of things. And then hopefully they'll want to work with you after that. All right. Somebody asked, do I have clients that do not like the automation? No. Honestly, clients, what I have found is clients love that I communicate with them regularly and that they always know what step is coming next. So no, I don't really ever have that issue. Nicole asked, do I hold open houses within the first week of going live or hold broker open houses at all? Yes, typically we go live on a Wednesday and we usually hold open houses the first week on Saturday or Sunday. After that, it's up to the discretion of our seller. We will do open houses every week after that if that is what they want. If they don't, then we won't do them. And I don't do broker open houses. I feel like they're a waste of time for the most part. I feel like usually it's just people who want a free lunch who are coming or a free gift card, and then it's not actually helpful. I feel like any serious agent who has a client who's interested in the house is just going to bring them to a showing and see the house. So we stopped doing broker opens years ago. And I explained to my clients, these are looky-loos usually, at least in my market. Busy agents in my market don't go to broker opens. We don't have time. Your market may be different. So in your market, they may be very helpful. In Chicago, they're a waste of time. They're usually new agents who don't have clients who come. Kat asked, do I have a workflow for onboarding, training new agents, team members? No, I don't. I don't need to because they just get plugged into like our seller current workflow, our buyer current, and that assigns tasks to everybody. So they know exactly what they need to do from that. And then Charlene said, thank you. I've heard you speak before. I do like that you have more detail in your workflows than the Navigator program does. This is the thing about real estate, okay, is that there is no program Realvolve can give you that is going to be perfect for your market because every market is so different. So take what you get from Realvolve or from, if you buy a workflow from somebody, but you're going to have to edit it for your market. You're going to have to make it work for your market. In Chicago, we have real estate attorneys. We have 2 earnest money payments, right? Like you can cancel a contract the first 2 weeks you're under contract for any reason. I can just wake up and say, I don't want to buy this property anymore. There is no way for Realvolve to know that is how it works in Chicago, right? They can't know the laws of every place. So take what they give you as a starting point, but then you are going to have to customize it to work well for your market. So, all right, I hope that was helpful for everybody. I know we went over by a minute or two. Sam, do you want to wrap it up and say anything?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Shay. This was fantastic. And, it really is. Realvolve it's just a tool and it is what you make it. And, it's one of those things where I look at our Navigator team as sometimes they're coaches and it's a two-way thing a lot of times, especially with getting these workflows in place. And Shay has been more successful than a lot of our users simply because she has the mindset to go in there and to create these themselves. And it's a lot of work and it's not an overnight thing. But yeah, everyone, if you're not using Realvolve, go start a free trial. You'll be sent there after this, I think, but I'll include some links to all these things in the webinar afterwards. If you just started, I know everyone on here is using Realvolve. Talk to us. If you've been using Realvolve for a year or 5 years, there's a lot of users I connect with on a regular basis who I've been using it forever, but I don't use it like this. I don't have all these workflows built out. We want to help. So please let us know if there's anything you need, if there's any type of workflow, any type of process you're looking for. And we're happy to help. So everyone, thank you so much. I wish we could have gotten to more questions. We had like 100 questions, but I think we did cover most of them. And we'll see you guys for the next coaching session.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
See y'all.